Okay, I think we can get started. Let me just verify. Okay, we are recording this, so this is great. Thank you guys for joining us. This is sort of an informal wrap-up session. We have done a few previous webinars on different topics, so now is the chance to ask any questions that you have on any topics related to the Trexo. And we have the team here to answer those questions. So I'm Jen, and Ramisa, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Ramisa. Jen and I are part of marketing at Trexo.
Mark?
Hi, how you doing? My name is Mark Rivera, and I work with the customer success team over at Trexo Robotics.
Great. Jaydev?
Hey everyone, welcome to the session. My name is Jaydev and I'm the account coordinator at Truxel.
Great, thanks. Alejandro?
Hi everyone, my name is Alejandro. I'm also the account coordinator here at Trexo.
Awesome. So thank you guys. So if you have any questions, you can submit them either in the Q&A section or the chat section. And we will monitor those and make sure that we answer them. I do have some questions that have come in that we'll get started with. So the first question is actually for Mark, and it's related to the training. So the first question was, I think this person is maybe a little bit nervous about doing the training virtually. Have there been any sort of bumps in the road or problems that you've had with virtual training? Is there anything that they can prepare themselves for since they're a little bit nervous?
So yeah, we've had issues sometimes with the virtual trainings, as is the case really when you're doing a 3-hour presentation and you're truly trying to get the kiddo to cooperate for a specific time frame is usually what ends up being the issues. The kiddo's not really into working during that half-hour window that we need them to. And if that's the case, what we end up doing is, so the training is typically about 1.5 hours to 2 hours of PowerPoint presentation. And then the last hour, we get the kiddo in the device and we kind of do all the setup for the kid. So if things aren't going the best that day, we try and get through the PowerPoint presentation and do all the training, like the functional end of it with the PowerPoint and kind of explaining how things work and doing the sizing of the device. And then we put things on the back burner until the family wants to move things, whether it's the next day or a few days down the road. And we book another 1 hour time to come back at it when the kiddo is going to be probably having a better day. And we just come back at it then, do the same thing all over again. Except at this point, we've already done the PowerPoint stuff, and now it's just a matter of getting the kiddo in and go for a walk.
Okay, great. So I think really there's just a lot of flexibility, and we just do what we have to do to make it work. And sometimes it's smooth and sometimes it's a little bumpy, but it works out in the end.
Yeah, honestly, everybody who's gone through it kind of starts off a little bit apprehensive because it feels pretty overwhelming. It's a fairly lofty task, but the PowerPoint presentation is really explanatory and people come out of it feeling really confident about how the whole thing works because it's really not that hard. And they kind of feel like they accomplished something because they learned how to do it all themselves. So it's good for everybody on both sides of the board, to be honest.
Great. I do have another question for you, Mark. And so the question is, how do they know if their child is doing well? Because every child is so different. Is there a benchmark, or how do they know if they're progressing well with the Trexo?
So basically, we don't really hold kids against how other kids are doing. We do regular check-ins with that family going forward, and we set goals independent for that kiddo. So we're trying to reach whatever goals that we've kind of brainstormed and come up with as the goals that the family wants there to be. So obviously we were going to be trying to increase usage over time because that's kind of the goal. And with increased usage, we're trying to increase the child's initiation score, or the amount of effort that they're putting into the walking, which is where a lot of the goal planning comes from. But typically what we're doing is a goal planning session with the family every month or 3 months. It's a little bit more often at the very beginning, but then eventually it becomes every 3 months and we just kind of go back at it again.
Great. Thanks, Mark. Allison, thank you for joining us. So right now we're just going through questions, and as any of our participants join, feel free to ask questions in the chat or the Q&A section at any point. And also just a heads up that I will be doing a short 2-second poll. So I'll let you guys know when that's available. And we're also going to do a quick little slideshow just to show you some pictures of kiddos in the Trexo. So Allison, I have a question for you. So this question is, when somebody is interested in the Trexo, but they don't necessarily have their finances lined up yet, does it make sense for them to talk to you, or do they need to wait until they have everything in order before they reach out to talk?
No, I think any time is a good time to chat. Obviously, you might have some questions in general about using the Trexo if it's appropriate for your child. So it's always good to have those early discussions. And even getting on the wait list is always a good idea. So just placing your deposit, that would start our assessment process for us to determine if it's a good fit for your child, but also that holds your spot in that wait list. It does fill up first come, first serve. And right now we're reserving out for January. So even if it makes sense to place your deposit while you get the remainder of the finances in order, that's always a good idea. But lastly, we can have conversations around ideas with grant funding, fundraising. I'm happy to talk through insurance. Obviously, we don't have pre-approvals, but I can talk through all those processes with you just to see if there's any additional resources that might help.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Alejandro or JDev, I'm not sure which one of you want to take this question, but they're looking to see what the process and communication is after a reservation is placed.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit about that. So after the reservation is placed, our team is gonna send you the confirmation that the reservation has been received, and we will also send you a form that is the Trexo Home Assessment. So that form is the first step to getting your Trexo, to getting closer to getting your Trexo. So we will need to receive that. It's a very long form. It might take you an hour to complete, but it is very important that you take the time to complete it as thoroughly as you can. And when we receive that, we meet, our team meets every Friday, and they review these forms, and every child gets approved. So after that, you will receive another communication from us, and you will explaining all the next steps and what are the Riften size and accessories that you will need to either get through insurance or through us. Please don't get the Riften before you receive this email. This is very important. After the email, you will be able to place the order, and you can also get it through Trexo Robotics at a discounted price. So after that step is completed, we're gonna stay in communication with you. We're gonna send you this pre-delivery form as we get closer to the production date of the device. And this is gonna be very important because it's gonna tell us that the size and health of your child hasn't changed. So we are gonna confirm that everything is okay, and we're gonna move everything into production, and we're gonna send you the agreement, and we're gonna send you the invoice for you to complete as soon as you can.
Great, thank you. I don't know who's best to answer this one, so whoever wants to. The question is, why the Riften, and is there a specific benefit or reason that it was chosen?
Can I take this one? So the reason we're using the Riften is because it's really robust, and it can hold 50 pounds of robot on top of the weight of the child quite easily, and it doesn't really affect it that much. And secondly, it has a function on the device that allows the frame, the top half of the frame, to bounce up and down when the kid goes into stance phase. And when they need to go up and over the hip, the Riften's able to do that.
Okay, great, thank you. Another question that we have is, this person says that they've seen a lot of talk about children with cerebral palsy. They're wondering what other conditions that children may have that would be suitable for using the Trexo.
Yeah, I think we kind of generalize it in saying anybody really with a lower body mobility impairment could benefit from the Trexo. To list some, diagnoses, you could say muscular dystrophy, spinal muscular atrophy, spina bifida, traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury, Rett syndrome, rare genetic disorders. The list is quite lengthy. I don't know if there's any that I've left out that come off the top of your head, Mark, but really there's many conditions that can benefit from the Trexo.
It's very rare that we have to negate somebody because of a diagnosis.
Okay, great. We have another question that I think is something that a lot of people wonder about, and that is the child's size. What's sort of the youngest and smallest and sort of largest? What is the range?
Obviously, there's 4 sizes of Trexo, and I'll let Mark chime in here a bit as well, but we say it's not based on age. It's really dependent on their leg length. We've had a child as young as 16 months old in the Trexo, and it can go technically all the way up to like 5'7" to 5'9". It's just very much dependent on their leg length.
Yeah, basically we need at least a 35 centimeter inseam of the child's leg to be able to accommodate them. And then as soon as we have that, then height restrictions are pretty, like, we haven't really run into a kiddo that is too tall for the device. Our limitations really expand at 150 pounds, which usually is the capacity for the device.
Okay, sounds good. And then we have a question. This one just came in now. From the time I submit the pre-delivery form, when should I expect the training to take place?
Yeah, I can take this one. So once the pre-delivery, we actually reach out 4 to 6 weeks before delivery to get the pre-delivery form completed. And once that's completed, you can expect the training to be done in the next 4 to 8 weeks. Probably right now, I would say it would take like a month, but that's the highest time, 4 to 8 weeks for the training to take place after you submit the pre-delivery. This would involve getting the Trexo delivered. And before the Trexo is getting delivered, you would have that date for the training. And in case it works or does not work for you, you can let us know and we can work according to your schedule.
Great, thank you.
I have a question here. Someone's asking what happens when my child outgrows the small size Trexo. Anyone from the team that would like to answer that?
So the small size in particular, or any size?
They asked specifically for the small size, but I guess like in general, you could go over what happens.
Yeah, I mean, high level, you do have the option to upgrade to the next size robotic legs. If you're going small to medium, the upgrade fee is $2,500. Medium to large, it's $7,500. And large to extra large, it's $2,500. So technically, instead of purchasing a whole new device, you just pay that upgrade fee, and that will get you the next size robotic legs. And the other component would be the rifted. So depending if you need to upsize to the next size rifted.
Thank you.
So I have a question, and this is actually to both Mark and Allison. And it's, what is your experience with your children with the Trexo? Just, I think, and I guess anything you want to share about it.
You want to go first? You want me to?
Yeah, go ahead. I can go after.
Okay, so my personal experience is I saw my son get stronger in a litany of ways, but for one way that kind of explains things out, one that I wasn't expecting. So when we first got the device, my son had aspirated pneumonia a couple of times, and there was some swallowing issues, and there was conversations of possibly putting a G-tube in him. And I was reluctant because I had worked with guys with acquired brain injuries for 17 years and really done a lot of work on swallowing with them, or with these guys, but I was having trouble with Mitch because he just didn't have the strength. And after using the device for 6 months, I watched his posture change, his head control and his neck control improved. And we got to the point where he was able to eat solid foods.
Wow, thank you for sharing that.
So my son Kavai has been using the Truxel for roughly 2.5 years now. His diagnosis is initially was HIE, and then that resulted in GMFCS5, CP, epilepsy, and a bunch of other sub-diagnoses. So he was the kiddo who hated everything, all equipment, AFOs, try to restrict him in any way. He wasn't going to do it. So he would not go in a stander, no matter how many times we tried, he would tone out. So I suspected the Trexo would benefit him because he wanted to move. And that exactly was the case. So once we got him in it did take a bit of time for adjustments, starting out at roughly 100 steps a session, air walking, meaning you raise the device to max height. So the legs are walking in the air, you're not touching the ground. And then within a couple months, we lowered him over ground into full weight bearing. And fast forward to today, he does roughly anywhere from 1,800 to 2,000 steps a session, depending on the speed at which he walks. Head control, trunk control, all those things I've seen improvement. Swallowing has gotten better, bowel movements, sleep, all of these things improved, even being able to initiate steps. He was not a candidate for a gait trainer prior to his Trexo use because he couldn't initiate steps. He didn't understand the concept of walking. He kind of thought he had one leg. With his toe and his spasticity, he would want to just stand on his toes. And when you tried to get him to take steps, he had no concept of it. So with the Trexo, I started seeing within just a few months, he started doing reciprocal motion. He started taking steps on his own, obviously with my support of his weight, but he started that patterning and eventually qualified for a gait trainer. And his vision was a surprising point for me. He does have cortical visual impairment. So initially he wasn't a candidate for a communication device, just visually he wasn't there. So 6 months into Trexo, we had another assessment and they were blown away. We don't really know what you've done, but yes, now he can actually use a device. He's using his vision much better. Trexo was the only thing we did because that was during the pandemic. Everything was locked down, no therapies. And sure enough, with him moving within his Trexo, he started using his vision better. And that's kind of the case with kids with CVIs. They use their vision better when they're moving.
Great, thank you. Okay, and so I have another question about using the Trexo outside, and is that recommended, and is there any restrictions?
I'll take that one if I can. It's preferred. It's better to be outside. It's nice outside. What we typically see is kids get higher initiation scores because they're more engaged with the walk because it's more engaging. You're going outside, you're seeing nature. It's like going for a jog on a treadmill in your basement versus going outside for a jog. It just is naturally better. And we can actually see that on the tablet with the initiation scores that are typically higher across the board.
Great. And so any restrictions, anything that they need to be careful of when they're out with the Trexo?
Well, yeah, the things that we would go over in the training, basically it's a 100-pound device. So gravity is going to have some effect on it. And if you were in a place where it could fall off of something, we obviously want to avoid all of those situations. But other than that, it's fairly good, other than the fact that it doesn't want to get wet.
Okay, great. Ramisa, did you have any more questions?
Yeah, I have a few. I just wanted to make a comment on like using the Trexo outside. Like we've seen videos of children, walking outside and looking around in their surroundings. They get that sensory input, and it's just like awesome to see some children be so engaged in gym class where they take the Trexo to school and use it during gym class. So that was just awesome inputs for the children. Yeah, so I'll go ahead with my next question that I've gotten. It's, have you thought to bring the Trexo into Europe? Yeah.
I can talk a little bit about that. And the answer is absolutely yes. we know there's a high demand for Trexo everywhere. Every day we have inquiries from numerous countries, and us as a company, I mean, this is definitely something we want to do, and we do intend to expand to other countries and make this more readily available. But certain countries have different regulations when it comes to medical devices, and Europe is one that requires a CE mark approval, and that's one we are working on. I don't have a timeline of what that really looks like when we'll have it, but it is definitely on our radar and something we intend to do. And in the meantime, like international families can technically still get the Trexo. They just have to, they have to pay for it in full before it would ship out to them. And the other part is shipping. Depending on their country, we might not be able to ship it directly to them. So we would have to have those conversations of what that looks like. And if we can't ship it, there's ways that we can try to help facilitate getting it to them.
Yeah. And for families that are in Europe and would like to try it, we do have a clinic based out of Lanzarote Island in Spain. So you can always try the Truxel there if you're looking for somewhere close by to try the Truxel at Swim Labs International. That's the name.
And the other thing I'll mention on that too is even if that's not in anywhere close to you, or even if they don't have the right size, because they only have one size Trexo and your child might not fit it. If you did decide to pursue the Trexo, when you did receive it, you still have the 2-week trial option that US and Canadian families have as well. So just know that, when you complete training, you have 2 weeks to try it in home. And if in that 2-week window, you weren't happy with it or decided it wasn't a good fit, you let us know. And then you ship it back to us. And then in that, once we get it back, we would actually refund what you've paid minus that shipping. So you still have that peace of mind knowing that if it doesn't work out, it can still go back to you, to us, and the money goes back to you.
And I think actually just to sort of reiterate something that you just said, which is really important, during this 2-week period, it does start once you've completed your training. So you don't have to worry that as you're waiting for training, the clock is ticking. It's not. So you do have a full 2 weeks to evaluate. Okay, I have another question that came in. And the question is, what if they've made a reservation and have a expected date and something changes? Is there flexibility in changing the date for getting the Trexo?
Yeah, absolutely. So, sometimes things come up with our kids, unexpected surgeries or illness, or maybe you need more time for fundraising. So yes, there is flexibility in changing that date. Just communicate with us if you do need more time.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, and I have another question that says, when you mentioned goal setting for the children, oh, this is fun. What are some of the more interesting goals or fun goals that you guys have seen for children?
Oh, that was good. So this kind of runs the gamut, because typically we're trying to do 2 sets of goal setting every time that we're meeting together. One is just usage goals. So obviously I'm trying to get you to use the device more because that's what I do. But after that, we kind of work on goals that you yourself want. So we've had families that wanted to have a girl walk down the aisle and be a flower girl at a wedding. So we figure out how to do that. Right now is graduation season. So we have a few of our kiddos that are wanting to use their new Trexos and go and get their diplomas from their schools. So we're planning how to do that. We've had some kids that recently got their device and wanted to have a big thank you for the community that got it for him. So we were able to kind of plan around that. It all kind of depends on what your goals are, but we want to incorporate whatever those are and be part of them, because that's the fun part.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, and so there's another question. Are people able to visit us in the office, schedule in-person visits?
Absolutely. I'm gonna take this one too. We're now going to do regular open houses is the plan, at least once a month for a few hours on a Monday afternoon. So there will always be an open time. If families are looking to want to trial it out at the office, we can accommodate that.
Great.
I have a question here. So someone's asking, how does my child benefit from the Trexo when the robotic legs is doing the work?
That's a good one.
Take this one too. So basically, it may seem like the robot's doing the work, but over time, we can make it much more challenging for your kiddo and make it more responsive. So the robot will only do the effort if it's feeling the effort coming from your kiddo. So it's not necessarily where the robot's doing everything. And in fact, what we're trying to do every time we fit a kid for one of these is turn the motors down as far as we possibly can. Each one of those motors on the legs has a dial that we can turn down, and I'm turning those as far as I possibly can down. So the kiddo is always going to have the ability to push through the motion if they're functionally able to. And then we're going to work with that over time to increase that and reduce the motors on the Trexo, because ultimately the goal is to reduce and remove the Trexo at the end of the whole thing if we can.
Okay, I have a question that I actually thought would pop up sooner, but it's regarding the assessment and what they do if they need help. And so I'll also just add a little bit of commentary to that question. This is something that we see a lot. It can feel intimidating because it's something new. So I will let either JDev or Alejandro maybe field this one, but I just want to say that the general answer is you always have support from somebody on the Trexo team. But JDev or Alejandro, did you want to talk a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So always the families can contact us whenever they have a question regarding the assessment or anything else. Feel free to reach out to us at any time, and we will try to help you as much as we can. With the assessment is the same case. We're gonna reach out to you either by phone or email, and even our customer success team will be able to connect with you via Zoom or by phone, and they will be also able to help you with these any questions you have. Sometimes it's the measurements, sometimes can be videos, how to record a video or what's the best position. Any questions, you can always reach out to us.
Great. And a follow-up question on the assessment is, does how quickly they return their assessment impact the date that they would receive the Trexo?
Usually there won't be much of a difference in terms of the date that you were told in the beginning. The sooner, obviously, you complete the assessment, the faster we can work with that information and get everything ready for you. But yeah, we would expect to have that as soon as possible, as soon as you receive the email. And after that, then we will review it and send you all the confirmation to you.
Oh, this is a fun question. So people have, so this person has noticed on our Instagram that people have different color Riftons. And so they're wondering how that works. Does everybody get to pick the color they want?
Yeah, basically Rifton's got 5 colors. You can kind of pick whatever you want.
Great, good. Okay, so we have about 15 minutes left, just so if anybody wants to submit any more questions, keep that in mind. I do have another question. This is one that I got by email, and the question is, the person actually felt like they probably couldn't attend live, but would watch the replay. And so their question is there any reason to wait to get a Trexo? In other words, the example is the child is 2. Do they need to wait until they're a little bit older, or are they better to get started sooner?
I would say get started sooner, for many reasons. Again, that kind of just goes back to age is not necessarily the determining factor. It is their height, their leg length, like Mark said, 35 centimeter inseam. Also, start the assessment process so we can take a look at the child and where they're at and make sure it's safe and appropriate. But as a parent, I can say I wish I had the Trexo for my son sooner, but unfortunately it was not available. It didn't exist yet. So I didn't get the Trexo for my son till he was 5. And at that point, unfortunately, with his diagnosis, we've already kind of had issues with hips. So, he does have hip dysplasia, and hip surgery is on the radar. And that was before the Trexo. Things have changed. He's doing great with the Trexo. But point being, the sooner you start with your child, that's from a parent's perspective, the better, because potentially you can avoid, hip issues or back issues. While Trexo, we can't make any claims. I think we all just know the benefits of getting our kids upright and moving sooner than later.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question here. So they've seen a lot of the colors on the Trexo's legs, see like different colors. So what do these colors mean? Like, does that have any meaning?
Take it. Yeah, they all have meaning. So purple is the light that means that everything's good to go and you're ready to go for a walk. When you see orange lights, typically that's a visual representation of the kiddo resisting, or the motor detecting resistance on behalf of the child. That can be due to spasticity, or basically we're using that orange light as the determining factor on how high we're going to be setting each one of those motors when we're fitting it for a kiddo. And we want to see a little bit of orange lights to know that we're balancing that motor strength at the child's functional ability level. So basically, we're using the orange light as our determining factor to see how strong we need the motors. And then every time you see a blue light, the blue lights are only available on the hips. But the blue light is to let you know that the child's doing the work, and is also changing the initiation score on our tablets. But that's what we use to see how much effort the kiddo's putting in, especially for our nonverbal kiddos who we can't actually hear from. And we use that to challenge them and set goals for them.
Great, thank you. We'll continue with the questions, but give me 1 second to share my screen and just pull up the slideshow for you guys, just so you can take a look. And so we'll continue talking. If you have any questions about any of the pictures or anything, let us know. We have about 12 minutes left. Okay. So I have a question. What happens when a child is sick and they're not able to use the Trexo? Is there, it looks to me like the question is there like any sort of loss of the progress that they've made, and how do you suggest handling it if the child is sick for a period?
I'll take this one too. So usually we kind of address all these things when we're doing the goal planning. So it's not like we're trying to be putting your kiddo up against some other kiddo. You and I will get together and goal plan the best ways of to get your kiddo back into the device after whatever setback that they've had. And there's ways to make it a little bit easier to get them back in. And then again, so sometimes, like a lot of our kiddos, my son included, we get setbacks. And we just got to adjust and kind of make new goals and kind of work forward again. And that's what I kind of help you do.
Great, thank you. So I'm just going to talk for a quick second about some of these pictures. So you can see the lights there. Those are the lights that we were just talking about. And here's a little kiddo. How old was he? Was he, Noah, 2 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got kids that are that young, and then you'll see kids come through that are older. Let's see what else we have to show you. Give me 1 second. So you can see Ellie enjoys her Trexo. Okay, so here's a shot of the tablet. And I'm actually going to stop sharing that now. We went through it a couple times, but there is a question about the tablet, and the question is what's it for and what information does it give?
Okay, so the tablet is basically our interface. Basically, it's your remote control for the Trexo. It's how you can control making it operate or stopping it or changing things on it. But basically, it's also a way that we're going to track the kiddos' usage history and how, like, we're going to use their previous activity history and how they've done in their previous sessions and goal plan going forward. So it'll show you all the previous activity that the child's done. It'll show you the controls for operating the device when you're using the device. And it's also where I'll go with you to set up all the gait angles for those children so we can create their walking pattern for them.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we had another question that just came in. What is the proportion of those who lease versus those who purchase in full? And then also those who lease, for how long do they lease it?
I can talk a bit about this. I think most people will do the lease option. And that's for many reasons. And I honestly encourage this for most families. That lease option, it is over 36 months, but you're signing it for 12-month agreements. what this lease option does is it gives you checkpoints at 12 months and 24 months to make sure, one, your child's using it, they're benefiting from it, and you're happy with it before continuing. So a lot better to spend roughly $12,000 versus $40,000 to find out your child hates it and it's sitting in the corner and you're never using it. So also things change with our children over time. And some kids who come to us might not need the Trexo, over their lifespan. So maybe over 2 years, they've improved so much that they no longer use the Trexo. And that's been the case for a couple of our kiddos. So it just gives you a little bit more leeway and options. And I think that's usually the best choice. Unfortunately, we don't have those options though, if it is going out of the country. So US and Canada, you have the options for that lease to own, but when it goes outside of our countries, then you have to purchase it in full.
Thanks. And I want to mention, I see some of you have started to fill out the poll. So I did activate the poll. If you guys could just take 3 or 4 seconds, that's probably all it'll take you. We'd really appreciate it. Ramisa, have you had any more questions come in?
Yeah, so I have one question. We've slightly answered this, but I just want to make sure we're not missing anything. The question is, what would qualify my child to benefit from the Trexo? So we kind of went over like the different diagnoses that can benefit, and I don't think there's like a specific qualification that we could say that would allow the children to benefit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a list of anything that would say if your child does X, Y, and Z, they would definitely benefit. I think typically as parents, what we're used to is when we go and look for equipment for our children, we're given a list of reasons why they can't use it. So it's natural to kind of look at the Trexo the same way, but I'll be honest, as a user, it's one of the first devices that I feel doesn't automatically disqualify our kids just because they can't hold up their head or they can't, roll or initiate steps. So I think it's really hard to say your kid would benefit because they can do X, Y, and Z. Mark, do you have anything to add to that?
I'm not gonna lie, every single kiddo I've seen who uses this device benefits in one way, shape, or form. But again, every kid, I say this a lot, every kid's a snowflake and they're all gonna benefit in their own different ways. And to go through the list of ways that kids have benefited, we'd be here for a while.
Yeah. So like, no matter if the child uses a wheelchair or even initiates steps on their own, like they're like everyone who goes through like the assessment will let you know, and most likely they'll be great for the Trexo.
Exactly.
That actually, again, pretty much answers a question that just came in, but maybe you can let me know if there's any more detail we should expand on. And that is, what if your child is already walking a little bit and initiating some steps? How could the Trexo help them?
We have lots of kids that have spinal muscular atrophy who have the ability to and the mechanics to be able to tie the stepping together, but lack the strength to be able to go for long periods of time. We have kids that have motor impairments where they can walk around with supports, but their gait pattern over time will become problematic. And we can help all of these kiddos with better developing their gait pattern.
Great. I think another thing that I just kind of want to reiterate, there's some statements that we've made that are kind of blanket statements, which is we can, we think that most kids can benefit and things like that. But if you're not sure of anything, reach out to us. We're, as I've already said, we're all here, happy to talk. We've got phone numbers and email on the website. I'll be sending a follow-up email to this, and I'll make sure that you have the contact information there as well. So we're always here if you have any questions, if you're interested and you just need to learn a little bit more, we definitely welcome that. We have about 4 minutes left if anybody wants to pop up one last question, or do any of you guys have anything you want to share that I haven't asked yet? I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, let's talk about the Trexo chat app. So speaking about communication going forward, so after you get the device, everybody who gets a device is going to be putting an application on their phone, so that basically if you ever have questions, you can reach us going forward. So we have a very open line of communication with all of our customers. So if there's ever any questions or any issues going forward, you have a very easy way to get in touch with somebody for support.
Great. We did just have another question pop up, and that is there a way for Trexo families to connect with, communicate, and support each other?
So that Trexo chat app I was just telling you about, basically, we set up 3 different chat links for you. One of them is a direct line to us for troubleshooting. Another one is a direct line to the University of Calgary for the customers that agree to be part of the study that we're doing. And the third group is the general group, which allows you access to all the other Trexo families. So if you ever have a question that you're wanting to bounce off the Trexo Netherverse, you can just type it in there and it'll go to all of the families that have a Trexo.
Great.
I believe we also have our Trexo family Facebook group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and so that's what I was just going to say. We do have a Facebook group, and we let all of the families join. We're just about to launch some new stuff actually in the Facebook group. That's going to be fun. We're going to be talking about different themes and arranging for some educational information. We'll be sharing resources. We'll be asking you guys to share resources and ask questions and support each other. So we're about to start having a lot more fun and interesting information in there. So stay tuned for that as well.
I have a couple of things I just want to mention briefly. Because I'm not sure if we touched on it, but oftentimes we are asked, my child has this diagnosis, they can or can't do this. Is this going to benefit them? How do I know? So just to kind of reiterate things and reassure everyone that, of course, you can talk to me. We can talk high level. I can learn more about your kiddo and determine, high level if it would benefit them. But really, it's when we do our assessment internally, we're taking a very close look at your child. And if we felt that it wasn't a good fit at that point, we would refund that deposit back to you. Otherwise, we would move forward in the process. So just, again, giving peace of mind to know that we won't sell a Trexo just to sell it. That's not why we're here. We're here to actually help people. So if it is a good fit, yes, we'll sell it. But if it's not, it's a tough conversation for us to have. But we will be very honest and let you know that it's not going to work. And the last thing I want to mention, because it is coming up more, is around adult users. I do get messages frequently about adults maybe in their 50s, 60s. They have different diagnosis, MS, Parkinson's, their grandma had a stroke, broke her hip, whatever the case may be. Just want to put out there that the device was initially made focused on children. The extra large, like we said, go up to 5'9", 150 pounds. It's really a case-by-case basis at this point. So our goal would be to kind of help everybody that needs it. And, we've had discussions about possibly expanding into the adult space in the future, but for now it is really focused on the pediatric space. If you do fit those parameters with the height and weight, I'm happy to have conversations around it, but just know that it's not typically targeted for adults, but there are other options available out there if you don't meet those parameters, or even just kind of diagnosis, things get tricky.
Okay, thanks. I have one last question that I'm going to cover, and it is, are we having any more information sessions? And so the answer is yes. Our goal is to be a resource for you guys and help you guys. And so we will definitely be scheduling future sessions. Also, this and the previous sessions that we've done will be emailed to you and also are available on our website if you want to watch those. And then again, you can always contact us if you have any questions. So thank you guys so much for attending, and thank you, Trexo team, for being part of this. It sounds like it really means a lot to people. I've been getting a lot of emails after the events with people saying how helpful it was and how informative. So thank you, everyone. And with that, I'm going to end it. Okay, bye guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.